Welcome to another episode of the Berg Podcast, where we talk about all things Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I'm your host, Alicia Williams. Also known as the Hub City, or just the Berg, Hattiesburg is a bustling town in southern Mississippi. It's an educational, cultural, business, and medical hub for the region, and we're pleased to share stories from our community. On today's episode of the Berg Podcast, we have two interviews with local professionals. One, a veteran marketing executive, and the other, a prominent community college educator. We'll also have an audio essay. On our first interview, Christina Lee sits down with a southern Mississippi woman whose varied career has led her into a leadership role in the ever-changing marketing industry.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Lee, and welcome to the Berg Podcast. Today, I'm interviewing Francesca Krischel. My guest is the Director of Marketing at Data Street Marketing. She has such a unique career journey, starting in law, moving into academia, and now thriving in digital marketing. Earned her BA in Communication from William Carey College, went on to get her law degree from the University of Mississippi School of Law, and later added a master's in Communication Studies from the University of Southern Mississippi. After spending several years in the legal field, Francesca took a turn to teaching as an instructor of communication studies at Southern Miss, but eventually digital marketing caught her attention and she hasn't looked back since. Over the past decade, she's done it all, from working as a digital sales manager at WDAM, where she even had some on-air experience, to now leading digital strategy at Data Street Marketing, helping businesses across the country grow their online presence. Francesca, thank you for being with us today. My first question is, can you explain to our listeners what digital marketing is?
That's a very good question. And a lot of our clients begin conversations with us with that question. So I think it's an important one. I think the really easy layman's term answer would be it's the way that you advertise to people via an internet or Wi-Fi connection. And so that can be done through many different platforms and service lines, but that's the really broad brush overview answer. Is just we're serving ads to people through a connection that is based on the internet, which makes it digital. So that can include social media, that can include targeted display ads, video ads. It can include OTT ads, which is streaming television, streaming audio, and the list goes on and on.
What initially sparked your interest in this field?
Wow. So this is an ever evolving, exciting field. Digital marketing is on the forefront of all technology. Everything affects it. It affects everything. And so the very first time that I had an opportunity to really delve into working in this field was when I was actually working in a marketing position for another company and was being pitched digital marketing for that company. And when I realized all of the interesting and new shiny objects and things like that that were becoming available, it just really grabbed my attention. And I said, this is something I'm interested in because I feel like it's going to be different every day. And it is.
How did you end up at Data Street Marketing and what drew you to this company?
Great question. So I was working at WDAM and as you mentioned, digital sales manager at the time and on air hosting Pine Belt Marketplace, which highlighted businesses in the Pine Belt. And I was headhunted to run this agency that I'm currently running, Data Street Marketing. And I was contacted by a headhunter I knew previously from another company, and he reached out and said, there's this great opportunity. I think you've got the experience needed to step in and take this company in the direction they'd like it to go. And I've been here since.
As the director of digital marketing, what does a typical day look like for you?
So there is no typical day, which is a lot of fun. There is a lot of computer work involved. There's a lot of administrative work, a lot of emails, phone calls. But The really fun things that I get to do involve strategizing for campaigns for clients, working with sales reps to present something to a client that will take their budget and make the most of it and be very effective for them in growing their businesses or in extending a certain message to a particular audience. And then monitoring those campaigns, making sure they're running in the most effective way, optimizing them where they need to be, consulting with other team members who manage different departments in the agency to make sure that things are running well, addressing any needs there, being the liaison when needed between them and other team members and or sales reps and or clients. And then ultimately presenting results to clients and helping them see what their efforts really achieved for them.
What are some of the biggest challenges you face in your role?
One of the largest challenges is the fact that the digital marketing world is, as I mentioned, ever evolving. So there's always something new. There's always something more to learn. There's always a new way to do things, and staying on top of everything and best practices for all of the different types of services we provide is a challenge. It's a fun one because I'm a student at heart. I stayed in the world of education for as long as I could, but being out now in this role, it's allowing me to constantly continue my learning process of life, and it's been a lot of fun doing that.
How do you stay up to date with new marketing strategies?
So that's you can do it a lot of different ways. One of the main ways is I subscribe to podcasts, YouTube channels, emails. I seek out information through searches. I do a lot of webinars, a lot of seminars, sometimes in person, most of the time virtually, just for the sake of convenience. And it's really just about sorting through and figuring out what is important and what isn't at the time, because we all have to prioritize our time. And with all of the new things and all of the different subject matters that is relevant to digital marketing, there's a lot of sifting that I have to do to make sure that I'm seeing what needs to be addressed now versus something that may could wait, or if something is maybe better suited for a member of the team, I pass it to them. And so spend a lot of time doing that sort of thing.
What are some of the biggest trends shaping digital marketing today that you know of?
No surprise here, AI. And so AI is rearing its head in every facet of digital marketing. As we continue to provide the best possible services that we can for clients, we are incorporating AI as we can to help be more efficient in our quest to help clients in their advertising endeavors. But we also are very selective in what we use, and we make sure that we're testing things and doing a lot of research before we utilize any of the types of AI. Ultimately, there are a lot of bits and pieces of AI that are so new that there isn't enough research yet on to see if they're going to be really useful long term or detrimental long term. And so we do find ourselves dealing a lot with AI. There are lots of AI programs that are extremely helpful in the digital marketing world. However, at the end of the day, it does not replace the human touch, the human mind, and the human experience.
What advice would you give to students who want to get into this field?
I like to tell students, learn as much as you can about as many facets of digital marketing as you can. I am fortunate enough to have a very holistic view of digital marketing, and I know at least a good chunk of knowledge about each service that we offer. And even if I don't personally run a campaign or strategize on that social media campaign or something like that, I still understand the concepts behind how each platform works, why it's important to be there or not, and how to build strategy around it. And so as you're preparing to enter the workspace, the more well-rounded you are in a field, the more marketable you are in a field. And especially if you're looking to either go out on your own or join an agency, we're looking for people who can wear multiple hats, and you're going to have to do that in those types of roles, be it by yourself or in an agency. So the more you can learn and experience, the more internships you can do, the more experiments you can do in classes, the better your chances for success in the digital marketing world.
Thank you so much for talking with us today. I'm Christina Lee for the Berg Podcast.
In our next interview, Richard Bullock speaks with a local educator whose long career has impacted the lives of scores of community college students.
I'm Richard Bullock for the Berg Podcast. Today I'll be interviewing the honors professor at Pearl River Community College. My guest today is Dr. Ryan Ruckel. Dr. Ruckel, thank you for being with us today.
I'm honored to be here. It's a privilege.
So my first question for you will be, what was the main thing that had pushed you to being a professor?
Well, that's a good question. I had wondered a lot about what I would do when I was in undergraduate. What's funny is all the time I was in high school, I didn't really fit in. I wasn't bullied or anything, but they weren't really my friends, but they were people I was in school with would joke and call me professor. That was my nickname, was professor all the time. And then when I went to college, I just really wanted to have a scholarship. I really wanted to go to school, and I had to have a scholarship to go. And when I was in school, I wondered a lot. I had AP credit for biology, and they said, take a year off and study some other stuff. And I kind of fell off the slippery creek bank into history, philosophy, theology, and literature. And I've been there ever since. And I was so anxious about what I would do with my life when I think it was pretty obvious all the time I was going to be a teacher. And so I triple majored in secondary education, English and history, and did my student teaching, and I've never looked back.
My second question would be, why would you pick teaching at a community college over a state university?
Well, it happened that I was in graduate school earning my master's degree in history, and the job at Pearl River came open, and I applied for it and did not get it. And I had a lot of anxiety about applying for it because I was in grad school and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to finish the degree if I were also teaching and so on. And the history department at Southern Miss was so great, they looked at me and said, "You're in school for what reason?" And I said, "Well, to get a job." And they said, "Then get the job." And they were going to work with me. When I didn't get the job, I was relieved, but then they called two of us grad students and said, "Would you like half a job?" Well, that worked out perfectly. My friend Scott Kimball went down on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I went down on Tuesday, Thursday, and we shared a desk. And that way each of us could finish our program by taking graduate classes on the other days. And I've just been with Pearl River ever since. When I got out of high school, no one could have paid me enough. In fact, they tried to pay me with scholarships, and I would not go to a junior college. I wanted to get out of this state. I wanted to go to a four-year school. I wanted to go to someplace expensive and private and hard to get into and feel like I was smart. And all that was great, but I got the same thing there that I would have gotten here, which is faculty with terminal degrees that have PhDs that are interested in students and are really good at what they do at teaching and mentoring students, very small class sizes, all the things I paid a lot of money for. And so I've really come to believe in it. I see the value of the work we get to do with students, and it's very fulfilling, and I feel privileged to get to do it.
What would you say would be the primary difference between being an honors professor and what you've observed from professors that you would say know at a state university level?
Well, of course, there are honors programs at four-year schools as well as at the two-year schools. In fact, it's probably more common to have an honors program at four-year schools. So it's one of the unique things that we were all able to do here is work together to create the honors program. And I would say probably honors folks would like to think that they can have more discussion with their students and that their students are perhaps more naturally curious about any subject, especially and including the one they teach. But, say someone who's an accountancy major might also still be curious about literature, history, or philosophy, or learning Spanish. And it's the joy of working with interested and curious students that probably draws most honors faculty.
When looking at Mississippi as a place for education, especially in terms of relating it to your career as an honors professor, how would you describe its quality within the state?
I'm really glad you asked that question. Even when I went away you earn your PhD and then you go on a teaching rodeo. So I taught for a year at Texas A&M in College Station, and then my wife, who's a Faulkner Scholar, had the opportunity to teach at Ole Miss for a year. So we could have stayed at Texas, but it was her turn, so we went to Ole Miss, and she could have stayed there. But we really had wanted to come back here and be with family, and had really trusted God. We just really thought that was going to happen, and it did. But the thing is, when I was in Texas at A&M, I'd have 370 students in a class and 2 teaching assistants, and I really thought I was important, thought I was big stuff. But I would tell them, you just don't know how good the community colleges in Mississippi are. The same thing at LSU. They didn't really have a good clue about the 2-year college system in Mississippi, and it was neat to go these other places and boast about the quality of education that you can get here. That it's very few times in life that specialists who are dedicated and devoted to a life calling are the least expensive option. They're just you just always have to pay more. But at the community colleges in Mississippi, we have this great tradition of folks that just really love teaching and working with students, but who have been in industry or have academic qualifications that make them wonderful educators. And you can get that. Our students outperform the students who go straight to a 4-year school on all kinds of metrics. They persist and stay in school better. They earn better grades. They go further in their professional field, all manner of success.
So taking it outside of Mississippi for a bit, I know that you have the Catalyst trip coming up. How would you describe what it is, and what are your hopes for it this year?
I always call it, I say it's 4,000 screaming nerds with laser lights and fog machines. And it's really neat for 2-year college students who have a like mind. That means that whether the student is a nursing student, or they're headed to law school, or they are a diesel mechanic, they have a similar mindset in that they wanted to do well in school and earn good grades, and they usually have a service mindset. They want to help other people. And for them to all be together in one place creates a lot of positive energy, of mutual encouragement. When you meet somebody from Hawaii or Canada or California who is so surprisingly similar to you in what they want to accomplish in life, even though your major is totally different, you share all this neat stuff in common, and it just creates a lot of encouragement. People benefit a lot from seeing that other people have similar struggles to them, and they commiserate, I guess, but they encourage one another in doing so. And we feel like I'm not allowed to say anything about the awards. I happen to know all the scores because we serve as the regional coordinators. So I can't say anything about that, except I do feel like we will earn some recognition this year.
I know Catalyst is not the only event that you and all the other honors professors are a part of. So would you describe, not just recent, but probably favorite events and activities that you have overseen as an honors professor?
Well, just to say another word about Catalyst, because I don't think I answered everything you asked me, was when they do get to go up on stage, and when you work, you worked on these projects, it may seem kind of grubby and hard to organize and frustrating, and it's hard to see the end of it. Then you have to write about it. And then when a year later you're recognized for what you learned, it creates a kind of a seal in a person. To me, it's almost like graduation or baptism. It does something for a person that kind of locks in that experience and causes the person to grow in confidence and to believe that all this hard work we did and this hope we had actually did pay off, and it creates future energy for future projects, I guess I would say. Apart from that, gosh, I think one of my favorite things is the Mississippi Honors Conference. It's not always my favorite if I'm the one organizing it, but when we see the students almost always, every year, we drag students kicking and screaming into research, and they're nervous and they're anxious and they think they don't have time and all these other things. And then when they finally take us on our word and they do it, and I watch them grow up right before our eyes, they gain confidence, they win an award, they discover their life path, that this really is something that they're very interested in doing for the rest of their life. So that's one of our favorite things. That and probably traveling with students. We've taken students in a van to the airport in New Orleans and had them say, "I've never crossed the Mississippi River." We've taken students to San Antonio and had them say, "I've never eaten anything Mexican except a cheese burrito or enchilada or something," like never. So getting to see students have these experiences that open their life up is it's a privilege.
So I'd say, going off of that you think it's a very beneficial organization to be a part of, when you say?
Yes. So we have Phi Theta Kappa, which is the honor society for 2-year school. So it's kind of like Beta Club or Scouting or 4-H, where it recognizes students, but it doesn't just put their name in a book like certain other organizations do. Instead, we train them in leadership. They get the chance to travel. We encourage them in their studies, and they make lifelong friends. Scholarship, leadership, service, and fellowship. But the Honors Institute that we built with all the faculty here and our former leadership, Susan Donahue and Dr. Cecil Burt, they encouraged us to create it, and we worked with all our Poplarville faculty, Dr. Becky Askew, Dr. William Lewis, and many other faculty, Robin Nix, Stephen Black, just a lot of people across all the campuses that worked together to create it. And when we did, we built it to work on the academic side, to separate these students out and give them the chance to have classes with just themselves so they can feel at home and don't think people are rolling their eyes because they asked an interesting question, and also to hold each other accountable. So students mentor each other, or students will say, "Why weren't you in class?" or "Why did you do bad on that exam?" and really help each other. There's a lot of research that says this, that if you put students in a group and they work together, they survive better, they do better, but we knew it instinctively.
Okay, so it looks like we're coming close to time on that, so I'd like to thank you for talking with us. I'm Richard Bullock from the Berg Podcast.
In our next segment, we will dive into our audio essay, as Christina Lee explains how a childhood video game changed the trajectory of her life.
The heart may be weak, and sometimes it may even give in. But I've learned that deep down, there's a light that never goes out. Video games have the power to tell stories in ways that no other medium can. They immerse you in worlds, introduce you to unforgettable characters, and sometimes they teach you lessons that stick with you long after you put the controller down. For me, Kingdom Hearts is one of those games. It's more than just a story about a boy with the giant key fighting shadows. It's a journey that has shaped the way I see friendships, challenges, and even myself. Kingdom Hearts follows Sora, a boy whose world is consumed by darkness, separating him from his best friends, Riku and Kairi. Armed with the Keyblade, Sora teams up with Donald and Goofy to travel through Disney worlds in search of their missing king, Mickey Mouse, while facing off against the Heartless and a group of Disney villains led by Maleficent. Along the way, Sora learns that darkness exists in everyone, but it's how you face it that defines you. That message hit harder than I expected. Kingdom Hearts is ultimately about the strength of the heart and how our connections help us push through, even through the darkest times. I was especially drawn to the bond between Sora, Riku, and Kairi. Imperfect, but unbreakable. Their friendship, tested by distance and hardship, reminded me of my own struggles with holding on to the people who mattered most. Growing up, I struggled with friendships. I was often the kid no one talked to, the one who felt invisible. When I did make friends, they usually ended up hurting me in one way or another, which made me afraid to let people in. In a way, I felt like Sora, watching the people closest to me drift further and further away, unsure if they'll ever come back. My first true friend came during my first semester at Ole Miss, my random roommate. I was 5 hours away from home, knowing practically no one. Thankfully, we hit it off on moving day, and we stuck together that entire semester. She introduced me to K-pop, a genre I still love, and we went on countless adventures, including one to the doorknob of the universe, an Ole Miss tradition. Ultimately, she wasn't just my roommate. She was my best friend, my go-to to parties, my confidant, and the person who helped me through some of my darkest moments. But midway through the semester, she had to leave due to outside circumstances. I was devastated. Just when I thought I finally found a friend, she was taken away from me. The rest of the semester after she left became difficult to continue, and due to my circumstances getting worse, I had to leave the film program and the university completely. Moving back home brought me into a depression, where the distance between me and my best friend made me feel more isolated than ever. We still texted and called often, but it never felt the same due to us no longer sharing those vital college experiences we had first bonded over. Throughout this time, it seemed like everything around me was falling into darkness. My best friend had left, I dropped out of my dream university, and I had the weight of my whole family on my back, with thoughts of me being a failure being the only thing I could hear. To make changes for the better, I enrolled in community college, and eventually she came down to see me. And as if nothing had changed from when we were together before, our friendship reignited and made me feel like I was at Ole Miss again. After she left again, many of those old feelings returned, and I went back to one of my comfort games from my childhood, Kingdom Hearts. A game that I previously loved because of the Disney characters and the fun moments as a kid had now taken a deeper meaning for me as an adult. One of the powerful themes in Kingdom Hearts is the balance between light and darkness. Throughout the series, Sora faces enemies who insist that darkness is stronger than light. Even Riku, his best friend, falls into darkness, believing it will make him stronger. But the game makes an important point. Darkness isn't something to fear or avoid. It's part of all of us. What matters is how we face it. That message hit home for me. Like everyone, I've had my struggles. There have been times when I felt overwhelmed, doubted myself, and wondered if I was strong enough to keep going. As someone who battles with depression, there are moments when I thought I wouldn't make it. When I transferred from my old university to community college, I felt like a failure, not just to my family, but to myself. That fear still lingers, even now as I worry about failing again like I did in my previous film program. It's held me back from chasing new opportunities, and even now, where I'm at a point where I've come leaps and bounds from where I once was, these feelings can still be prominent. But Kingdom Hearts reminded me that struggling doesn't mean failing. It's what you do in those moments that defines you. Sora never gives up, even when the odds are against him. And I've learned that I don't have to either. I was able to grow from it, to embrace the struggles and feelings that I had previously fought for so long. I changed schools to USM, and I also began attending therapy, giving myself a way to speak about my feelings openly instead of letting them weigh on my mind alone. As I approached graduation, I decided to return to where a lot of my self-doubt began. For my graduate program, I will be going back to Ole Miss, where I plan on redeeming myself where I have previously failed before. Kingdom Hearts isn't just a game to me. It's a story that has shaped the way I see the world. It's taught me that friendship is stronger than distance, that struggles don't define who we are, and sometimes you just have to keep going, even when you don't know what's ahead. Just like Sora, I don't have all the answers, but I know that no matter what happens, I'll find my light, and that's enough. I'm Christina Lee for the Berg Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Berg Podcast. This podcast is produced by students in Dr. Dave Davies' MCJ 344 podcasting class in the School of Media and Communication at the University of Southern Mississippi. The producer for this season's episodes is Salaudin Ahmed. Our music is from Upbeat, cover art by Madison Calkins and Greta Graves. We'll see you next week on the Berg Podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Williams.